and welcome to Rainmaker's Story World Adventures. I'm Rainmaker, and if you're new here, I am sharing all about my different story worlds. I have 4 different science fiction and fantasy story worlds, sentient planet gods, and the things that happen on them and with them. Um, And what I'm doing is I'm reading the stories as I'm creating them and sharing my writing process, talking about the editing that I'm doing. Sometimes I reread what I've already read, but it'll be a little different. Um, I'm very interested in feedback. If you want to leave me comments, in the comment section and let me know what you think of the changes I've made. If you have any questions, I love that kind of thing so much. It really feeds my creativity and my inspiration to hear feedback and receive questions. In fact, before I begin, because I'm going to read the story that I have been recently working on about Tomli. I would like to announce that I'm not exactly sure when, sometime, I don't know, maybe in the next week or two, I am going to be going live. I'm not sure which social media platform that will be, but I'll figure it out. And as I figure it out, I will post on all my social media. You can follow me on here, YouTube, Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on TikTok. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and start here. Now, I did go over some edits. I have gone through, I just spent the last hour and a half rereading through all fresh from scratch, because a lot of the time I've been working in sections. But this time I went through, I had a lot of different corrections I wanted to make. I really brainstormed a lot last night and figured out more solidly what is up with Rangers and what they are and who they are, and entered into a fabulous dialogue with an old character, and I'm going to talk about that in another video. Don't worry, that's exciting. So here, I'm going to go ahead and start reading, and here we go. My cursor, okay. Hiding under scrub and fern, Tomli knew she was being followed by 2 men on horses. She quickly concentrated, reaching her mind out to nearby woodland creatures. A toad, a snake, a shrew, some little birds, and a falcon, sitting on a low branch about 15 feet away, watching all. Softly, her mind touched each one gently, picking up small, immediate surface thoughts of food, danger, movement, instinct. As her mind reached the falcon, she was met with someone else's consciousness, and in the space of a breath it was there and gone, and the falcon took flight. Startled, shook out of her meditation, she blinked, looked around, and feeling the same sense of calm in her surroundings, waited, uncertain and puzzled by that experience. Were they being followed by rangers? She hoped so. She knew she needed to get moving if she was going to escape Jairus before he woke up, though. Her light touch to the minds of the animals told her there was no one in the immediate area, so she decided to move on. Making her way through the trees alone, Tomli recounted to herself all that had gone before. It all really began about 6 months ago, she thought. Her father went into one of his drunken rages again, having been triggered by her verbalizing the wish that she had still had her loving dog, who had been sold along with the sheep and the farm. Tomli, reminding her father of this loss and the loss of his wife, who she so much resembled, let loose such a verbal barrage emphasized by heavy smacks, bruising her till she nearly bled. Fearing more for her life this time than any other time her father let loose, she finally mustered her courage to run away, but as a boy, hoping to both hide her identity as well as to give herself an advantage, for in Arhanas, women were not given the same privileges as men. When she had finally passed out that evening, she took her father's knife and cut her long, thin, light brown hair and grabbed his old leather hat with a wide brim, the knife tied around her waist under her dress. After stealing away when it was quiet out, she slipped through a neighbor's fence, taking some small trousers off a line, dashed into some bushes to tuck her dress in and knife in. It was to tuck her dress and knife in. It was not long after she had left home, while sitting just off the road and using her seeing ability, she was caught unaware by Jairus, who mistook her for the boy she hoped to present, and immediately offered her to help her out with some work to earn some coin, after she claimed to be an orphan. However, she found out later that the work was to be a lure for his cheating games, acting as his shill and teaching her some sleight of hand. Later, when he'd realized her ability to see and smell and even hear through a mental link to surrounding animals, he kept special watch over her, finding many good uses to put her to. It wasn't always nice. Sometimes he would say mean things and smack her around, just like her father would, especially if the marks caught on to his tricks or his luck was bad. At these times she would hold back tears till her eyes gleamed red, apologize over and over, and offer to do something for him, like rub his sore feet or fetch him more beer. She would think of running away from him as well, but was never confident enough to do so till now. When she first ran away from home, she really hadn't thought about where she would sleep and where she would find food to eat. She had only been 9 then, though she reckoned she should be 10 by now. Still, she had been glad he had a need for her, and wasn't quite sure for a while where else she might go. He did not yet know she was a girl, though, but lately he had become suspect in a village they had just passed through. Now there were 2 men following them since leaving the tavern earlier after a gambling session. He had passed out in a corner of the tavern. It was then that she managed to sneak away from Jairus after carefully stealing his knife from its sheath at his waist, her father's long since lost on wagers by Jairus. It was Tomli's plan to lure those men, and her hope to confess to them her innocence, help them to catch Jairus, and in return be sent to a ranger who could train her in her special abilities, even perhaps offer her a place among them, maybe as an apprentice scout tracker or messenger. Rangers traveled all over the world bringing news, managing disputes, protecting lands, bringing medicines and healing to the ill and injured. It was an honor to be a ranger, she thought. Daydreaming and not noticing a signal from the mind of a bird behind her, she was caught unaware as hands suddenly reached out and covered her mouth and nose. "So you think to outsmart old Jerris, does you? Well, boy, and what do we haves here? Ah, is my good old knife you have, is it? Maybe I just cut out your eyes then." The foul old man chuckled grimly. Tomli began to struggle, fighting back tears, knowing how close freedom was, and shaking with fear of the beating she would get. Suddenly a falcon came at them out of the sky, letting out a scream as it clawed Jairus' face as it went by. The brute let go of Tomli and clutched at his face. Looking up, the child saw the fierce bird coming back for another dive, and leaped into some nearby bushes. The falcon made another loud screech before attacking again, flapping hard suddenly to just miss a swipe from Jairus' knife. Caught up in the scene, Tomley didn't notice the man until he was just behind Jairus, sword drawn. "Hold! You are at sword point!" Jairus stood motionless, though still grasping his knife. Tomley watched from the bushes in fascination. This must be a ranger. She'd heard stories of how they sometimes had animal companions who fought beside them, though she'd also heard of other fantastic stories of how some could actually change themselves into animals, though she didn't know whether she believed it or not. The man with the sword moved closer so that the sharp point jabbed slightly into Jairus' ribs. "Now that we understand one another, let go the knife." Hesitation drew a small jab, and this time Jairus complied, the knife falling to the ground with a soft thud. Tomli, seeing an opportunity, began to creep out, when she was surprised by a strong hand upon her shoulder, and she froze, tense. "Easy, you," a rough voice spoke behind her. Tomli trembled under the firm grip. "Come aside here, boy, and answer us." The man, with surprising gentleness, pulled Tomli out in front of Jairus, who was rather disoriented by the falcon's attacks, and looked rather shocked with his fat mouth gaping. He hadn't thought for a moment he'd be caught this way, not now that he'd had the boy as the perfect scout. Sweat appeared on his brow. The money he owed, but they hadn't accused him yet, though the man behind him, his voice was familiar. From that inn? Look, boy, what do you know of this man? This question came from the man who held her shoulder, still firm yet gentle. Tomli could easily have pulled away and run. She wondered why she didn't. But then it was her plan to lead them here. He was a rugged man who seemed used to living in the woods. The other, holding Jairus at sword point, seemed more lordly, with a feeling of authority. Tomli thought for a moment. What were these people meaning to do? Timorously she answered, looking down. Begging your pardon, sir, he's mean. When the men continued to watch her, she spoke again, looking at Jairus' feet, turning away from the men's steady gaze, shielding her eyes with the wide brim of the hat. He plays dice in different towns, sir. Ah, and does he cheat at dice? Asked the lordly man. Now Jairus spoke up, anxiously grasping at any last chance available. My lord, you'd be playing dice too, trying to get by with your son if you'd had nothing. I'm not mean all the time, as my boy says, I swear. At these words, Tomli, suddenly shaking with emotion and inner turmoil, struggling between maintaining the closeness she had been forming with Jairus, who in some ways was better than her own father, but nonetheless still would beat her as he would do. All this ran through her mind, but her goals came to the front. She must be away from the hurt. She must find rangers. She must find people she could trust. Jairus' whining to the men, speaking as a caring father, and the falseness of it was too much for Tomli, and she exploded with fury, pain, the tumult of sudden change of circumstances, and the uncertainty that came with it. The questions of why must things be so hard? Liar, liar, he's lying! Tomli screamed out, shaking, cutting him off. You are not my father. I ran away from my father, and you are just as bad as him. Tomli shook so hard the man let go and stepped back slightly, still ready to catch the boy should he try to bolt, and quickly glanced over at the other, making eye contact, nodding as if to confirm acknowledgement. With the outburst, all the woodland creatures scattered at once. You are a cheating scoundrel, and even though I am grateful for such kindness as you did give, you still would hit me. Heaving and shuddering from such an extreme outburst, Tomli's small body collapsed to the ground. Adrenaline still pumping hard, the slight youth was overtook by a flooding wash of tears from such a release. All the past harms finally, for the first time, declared. For the first time, she really fought back, and it was terrifying. She wondered as she cried, would she have had that courage? Were these men not here? And I think I'm going to leave it there for now. Let me make a mark to myself that I had. Oh, I accidentally highlighted that and deleted it. That's what undo is for. Okay. All right, just typing that. Okay. Yeah, so that, I think there's like maybe one or two small changes, but it's not really a big deal. Not totally not worth rereading all over in another video. Um, So, yeah, I hope that you liked that, and please let me know in the comments if you really love it. If you don't even want to comment, you're not wanting to, like, really, it's too much to type and whatever, just leave me a heart or a million hearts or a bunch of 100s, whatever. Just let me know that you liked it, please. I really appreciate it, and it also helps me grow this channel a little bit. I'm really trying to expand this. This is literally a lifelong dream of mine to share my stories, and 20, 30 years ago, I never in my life ever imagined that I would be making videos like this because YouTube didn't exist then. And I didn't even have internet at my house. So, yeah, please, please enjoy. Let me know what you think. And I think that was all I was going to say about that. Don't forget, keep an eye out on all my social media for my announcement when I'm going to go live. Where I'm going to go live, maybe I'll do it multiple times on taking turns round robin on all my social media. I don't know. I'll figure it out, but the idea is there and I'm letting you know it. So thank you. Have a good night. This is Rainmaker signing off from Rainmaker Storyworlds.